Hi, and welcome to this first in our series of 3 free webinars designed to teach you how to engage, inspire, lead, and produce. Now, we need to clarify up front that when I speak of leadership in the context of these webinars, I mean it from 2 different perspectives. First of all, if you happen to be head of a team, then you're a leader in that team. And we're going to give you techniques you can use to be more effective as a leader. However, whether you lead a team or not, you do have a leadership responsibility in your own life. So try to keep both of those focuses in mind as we go through our program tonight. And I'd like to begin by asking you a couple of questions. Well, maybe more than a couple. But think about these questions very carefully. First of all, do you have team members who really don't seem to care about the work or the customers? Do you have that? Are there members of your team whose primary goal seems to be to get by until quitting time? You get a certain amount of that too. I discovered in an elevator on my way up to the 18th floor of the BBT building downtown Orlando a few months ago that there is now such a thing as Friday Eve. That's what Thursday is. I found that out at 7:30 on a Thursday morning. And here's this young lady as she's getting off the elevator telling me it's Thursday Eve or Friday Eve, and she's relieved because it's Friday Eve. I don't get that. I like to have a pleasure in what I do, and the concept that there's now a Friday Eve and it's on Thursday with 40% of the work week left just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what it would be like to live like that. Are there managers in your organization that you wouldn't want to work for? Well, do people not want to work for you? I suppose that's a private question to ask yourself. But if you are the leader of your organization, clearly you ought to be right now making a list of all of the leaders who help you and just ask the simple question, do people like working for them? Or do they not like working for them? You'll see why that's important in just a couple of minutes. Are negative attitudes a problem? Negative attitudes kill people. Are customer complaints up? Are you happy with the percentage of people on your team who seem really talented and effective at their job? What percentage of the members of your team are actively committed to doing their best to help the business succeed and grow? If you've got answers to any of those questions that you're not satisfied with, then this program is for you. You see, we're talking about a very serious workplace cancer, a cancer that is so pervasive that it threatens to kill off many otherwise good companies. It's a cancer of epidemic proportions. That's that whole concept of lack of inspiration and engagement in the workplace. The Gallup organization surveys this every year. And sometimes it seems like every day I see updates on it, but I've been following it for at least 10 years, and the statistics from those surveys really haven't changed very much. They are this. First of all, for every 10 members of the average workplace, only 3 claim to be actively engaged and inspired on the job. 3. 5 are just sliding by, just sort of sliding by under the radar, trying not to do any more than they have to, or for that matter, any less than they need to in order to survive in your organization. But the really scary thought, I'm going to look you in the eye when I say this, the really scary thought is that 2 out of every 10 members of the average workplace are actively disengaged. Now, what does that mean? Could it mean either conscientious or inadvertent subconscious sabotage? Are they actually trying to put you out of business? I conclude from this brief discussion that in terms of staying in business, engaged employees are the key. I said I would explain why that's important. There's a little concept of customer loyalty. And do you know what determines how loyal your customers are going to be to your business? Here it is. Here it is. The thing that determines more than any other factor whether customers are going to like your business and stay with it is how well they think the employees who serve them like their jobs and how well they let it show. So you see, you need satisfied, engaged employees to really reach your full potential in business. And if Engaged employees can keep you in business. Disengaged employees can put you out of business. And now think about this. You probably pay the good, the not so good, and the patently bad pretty much the same money. Put this way, you're probably paying at least those non-productive, disengaged, dissatisfied, unhappy 20% of the workforce. You're probably paying them in practical terms to help put you out of business. Now, does that make sense, to pay people good money to put you out of business? And yet, if you are tolerating bad employees, and you probably are, statistically speaking, then you have a certain percentage of your payroll that is going to people whose goal it is to make life miserable for you and maybe even put you out of business. Maybe they don't formalize it in words, but that's kind of where they are in all of that. And what's the cause? Well, there are a few. But the one that we're going to focus on for purposes of this webinar is that the number one cause of disengagement and dissatisfaction and lack of inspiration on the job has to do with quality relationships of supervisors. With supervisors. I read somewhere that as many as 7 out of 10 of all the reasons why people decide to leave an employer are related to their relationships with supervisors. That's pretty big. You get good supervisors, and what's going to happen? You're going to have satisfied employees. And what do satisfied employees bring you? Satisfied, engaged, and loyal customers eager to continue doing business with you. So what is leadership? I have a definition. The definition of effective leadership is the ability to inspire. Get that. That's an important word. Inspire individuals and teams to want to follow the leader, to the places and levels they wouldn't or couldn't go alone. And leaders have available some important tools that I want to share with you. These tools specifically, if you'll implement them, can head you very directly, very quickly down the road to an engaged and satisfied workforce. The first tool is clarity of vision and purpose, and the communication skills to convey it. Now, you might be saying, well, now we have a mission statement, we have value statements, and we've made nice plaques, and we have them posted on the wall where everybody that comes into the building or into the workplace can see them. Yeah, you probably do. But if it's not internalized in the hearts and minds of the staff, if the customer experience doesn't pretty accurately reflect your written statements about what you stand for and what you want to be good at, then you really don't have clarity of vision and purpose. And at least you haven't communicated it. I don't know any other way to do this other than to actually sit employees down as part of the orientation and periodically in departmental meetings and review the vision and purpose with them, have them define their own mission and purpose, have them compare that mission and that purpose to the mission and purpose of the company, and make sure they are in compatible alignment. You might even want to consider a mission and purpose statement for your own department. It can sure help to focus you, but whatever you do individually or as a work team, make sure those visions and those purposes are all in a row, all lined up in alignment. The company mission is the master, the departmental mission is second. It's got to feed into the company mission, and the individual missions of the people involved have to fit the profile of the rest of the missions and purposes. Now, let's just see how effective we are defining our goals and sticking with them. I just read some research today that barely 5% of the people in this country actually write their goals down, and that seems to be the number one reason that increases their effectiveness. I've read that 42% goals, people with goals that they wrote out are actually 42% more likely to succeed with them. But having said all of that, not even 10% of people ever really achieve their goals. Let's take a look at the case in point. New Year's resolutions. 25% of the people who make New Year's resolutions have abandoned them, have no idea, no commitment to do anything with them in 1 week after New Year's. A total of 60% have abandoned them within 6 months. Here's what interests me too is the average person makes the same New Year's resolution 10 separate times and fails each of the 10 times. Not such a good commitment to goals, is it? Think about weight loss. That's probably one of your goals. That's probably one of your value statements. It's probably one of your recurring New Year's resolutions. Only 5% of those who lose weight on a diet keep it off. And if you're like me, you gain back more than you lost. Well, what if you've had a heart attack? Surely a heart attack is serious enough to get your attention. Well, it's a little more effective. People who've had heart attacks, 14% of them make lasting changes in their eating and exercise habits. Only 14%. They almost die, and it's not enough. They go right back to their old ways. So that first tool, use vision and purpose, clearly defined and lived as your first team building engagement strategy. The second one, have some emotional intelligence skills to listen beyond the words. If you're satisfied with just listening to the words that people are saying you, then keep this in mind. Usually the average employee doesn't want to upset the boss. Usually the average employee, even in a counseling session, is more often than not committed to surviving the session and not getting you any more upset than you already are. If you're not listening to the tone of the voice, if you're not watching body language, yeah, you're missing it. In fact, words, whether you write them or whether you speak them, have only about 7% responsibility for the effectiveness of communication. 38% has to do with body language, and 55% have to do with your tone of voice. So learn to listen beyond the words. We're going to talk more about emotional intelligence in another webinar. Eliminate negative attitudes. Sometimes people think there's nothing they can do about attitudes, but there is no reason why a negative attitude, which is bringing down morale and probably killing off customers, well, there's no reason why that can't be a performance issue. Evaluate it just as surely as any other. But if you're going to do that, make sure you define it as an expectation. A positive attitude. They'll live longer and be healthier and happier with a positive attitude. And by the way, so will you if they have that positive attitude. Stop thinking about every mistake that gets made as an excuse for discipline and use it as a way of mentoring and coaching. Use every mistake, every bit of wrongdoing as a learning opportunity. That's what a coach does. And the coaching process can be simplified like this. Observe. If you're not out there where people are working, how are you going to know how they're performing? Observe. Then call attention to the mistakes being made. Demonstrate proper procedure. Have them replicate what you've done while you watch, and keep coaching them until they get it right, until they see why it's absolutely necessary to do it a better way than what they're doing. Relieve stress with fun-based incentives. Also, tell people to take their breaks. Tell people to take their vacations. I've worked in healthcare most of my career, and one of the most common refrains is, well, I was so busy today I didn't get to take a break. That's sad. Too busy to take a break? Do you know what the research shows? People who take their breaks are up to 10% more productive than people who don't. So you say you can't take a break because you're too busy, and by not taking a break, you're making yourself even busier in the long run. What kind of sense is that? Take those breaks. Have a clearly defined system of performance-based rewards and consequences. Make sure the rewards and the consequences are commensurate with the gravity of the either the good performance or the bad performance. You can't afford to ignore good performance any more than you can afford to ignore bad performance. And the sooner you confront, the better. Don't send notes. Don't do like one nursing person I knew up in a Kentucky nursing home a few years ago who decided to fire an individual by placing a "you were fired" sticky note on her time card. Not very effective. Next thing you know, she and the administrator are hiding from this employee, and guess where they hid? In the classroom where I was teaching. I didn't know about that until later. Then finally have a process for matching the talents and preferences of individuals to the performance needs of the job. We'll cover that in a little more detail in webinar 3, but I want to give you right now a real live case study that you can benefit from, and it's actually a case study about me and a job that I had problems with. And I think you'll see not only the power of my talent assessment tool, but you'll learn a little bit about the importance of personality and performance. Well, that's about it for tonight, but let me give you just a quick look ahead at what you can look forward to in the next video, the next webinar. We're going to take up, again, some very important points. We're going to go a whole lot deeper into what it means to be engaged. We're going to show you how to formulate an engagement environment within your organization or your life in general. We're also going to take a closer look at how personality impacts engagement. There's always an ongoing discussion of which is important, operational issues or leadership, inspirational issues. And I think we're going to see that not every personality finds engaging others to be easy. But at the same time, often the less able they are to engage others, the easier it is for them to be engaged themselves, almost to the extent of oblivion to anything else and anyone else who may be around. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to also take a quick look at leadership style. I believe if you've downloaded your handout, and I hope you have the tools there that will help you take a look at your own leadership style. So anyway, for now, thank you. And if you're looking for an action item, then please join me in a few days for webinar number 2. I think you'll enjoy it. I know I'm looking forward to it. Good night.